so much for that, Karan. Let me bring on board Kunal Bothra as well. And obviously, Kunal, 24,400 is what we're playing with at this point. What do you make of the move today?
Yeah, we were discussing this in the month that I'm expecting flattish move for the index. We should just swing around this 100 points band for the Nifty, around 24,400 to 500 kind of a range. I think we've sort of meandered around this range for the last maybe 2-3 hours for the indices. There was a point where the bank Nifty started to show that slight bit of outperformance. We managed to test 57,000 on the spot for the bank Nifty, but that was very, very momentary. And you see the index scaling over from those levels. So this tells you that somewhere at the higher levels, we are now facing the first part of resistance emerging for the indices, or some selling pressure. We call it profit booking also, which could probably happen to those individual stocks. That could probably be an overhang for the markets in the near term. I was looking at the global market, so the Asian markets have closed on a positive note, but the European markets have started on a bit softer note. So that could probably be acting as an overhang for our markets. Net for the remainder of the trading session today, I would expect more or less a flattish kind of a close, just hanging around to this 24,400-ish kind of a zone.
Okay. What about some of the movers, especially energy stocks, Kunal? Any preference in terms of sectors?
Well, I think in terms of sectors, today the PSU banking stocks have started to show signs of recovery.
Yes.
But from the energy pack, if you ask me, I think there's nothing as such which is looking very attractive. So, what happens is on days, on few odd days, you might see few odd stocks starting to show signs of recovery. But then largely you're not seeing this as a pattern emerging for these names. And that's why it's going to be very, very difficult to call out a trend for many of these stocks as well as sectors. So we need to see more consistency or stronger follow through. That I believe is lacking for many of the other sectors.
So the strategy, the tilt, Kunal, should be wait and watch as to which way we go, or this is just a consolidation and therefore an opportunity, and what stocks?
So the best way to summarize is, Harsh, that it's a good time to start taking out some profits. If you've been trading since the last 3 weeks or invested since the last 3 weeks, it's a good time to start taking profits on the stocks which have moved up and given you maybe double-digit kind of returns, and start looking at some other options, some other trades, some other sectors. I think that's the better strategy over here, because when the markets, or if the markets are hitting that consolidation button, it's going to be very, very strong probability that you will see a sector churn which will start to happen. So you don't want to be stuck into the stocks which have performed very well and they go into a correction, and the other set of stocks or fresh sectors, they start to come back into a recovery. In that anticipation, I'll suggest a couple of buy calls, and of course both of them are fresh ones. In fact, one buy and one sell is what I would recommend. The first one is about APL Apollo. The stock, after quite some time, has come back towards a breakout above its 50-day moving average, crossed the levels of 2,000, 2,050 today. So we'll look at a target of 2,250, stop loss at 2,080. And after quite some time, initiating a first sell call, sell on PNB Housing for the stock indicators seem to be coming into an overbought territory on the hourly charts. So just a couple of days of time frame is what I'm expecting at max. 888 as a target on the downside, stop us at 924.
Okay, those are some quick ideas for you coming from Kunal Bothra. Let me slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll have with us a fundamental guest here to speak to us. We'll have Daljit Kohli, independent market expert, to give us a perspective of what he's doing in this market. Stay with us.